This is an instructional video of teaching how to harmonize a melody on the guitar. So let's get started. I would just play a sole sample, like a teaser out of the topic, based on a Hungarian folk song. So I would like to show you some tricks, ideas to enhance your creativity with the help of Hungarian folk song called Kis Kecelányom, which in Hungary kind of everyone knows, learns it in the kindergarten, or hears it from the mom singing. So the song is very simple, very short, and just moving in a fifth range. So if I play it in a different pitch or a different position, it sounds like that. So both the form and the rhythm is very simple and symmetric. That's why it's recommended to start learning harmonization with some very simple theme you get from somewhere else. So first I showed you this song with harmonies, and then I kind of stripped it just alone in one voice. So actually harmonization, this is like in the theater or in the movies, putting the different clothes on an actor and changing entirely the character and the energy of the player through the clothes. So I would like to build these ideas upon three guidelines. The first one is we are trying to be in quest for a certain clarity, so that's the key word, clarity. That means that we are trying to start from the basics. We will start with simple harmonies, with simple ideas, and then gradually move to more complex ones. Why is it important and why is it difficult? For me personally, when I started composing at the age of 17, I was already listening to a lot of symphonic music and concertos and oratorios. So I had in my musical memory, in my mind, really complex masterworks of the European history of music, which made me very difficult to start with really simple ideas. And there is the fear in us musicians that if we make some simple things, it may sound banal or may sound stolen, we might have heard it somewhere else, or we have the fear of using cliches. So I would encourage you guys to use as many cliches as you like and steal as much as you can in a smart way, because all the composers are stealing from each other. There is no composer ever born in the history of mankind who has not stolen motives from others, and this is not the point. So be brave and try to write something really simple and but beautiful in even a banal way. Okay, so the second guideline is the bass line. So when you create a harmonization of a melody, check your bass line and try to make it also make it sense to play the bass line alone, and to check if it sounds nice and it has a form and has a direction. And the third guideline is the tricky thing, is kind of a psychological trick to how to find a balance between the instinctive and the intellectual side of our minds. Because when we are composing, we can be also instinctive, just following, letting our fingers run on the fingerboard, trying to find some ideas which sound nice and not really thinking about them. And that's a very natural and important part of musicianship, just to let your fingers run. The other one is the intellectual part of organizing your ideas. So I would recommend you to start always with the instinctive and then write down or record what you're doing and try to understand what you have been playing. So let's, before we go into the harmonization of this simple melody, I would show you some exercises which are very useful. You can find also a lot of instructional videos about this, especially from jazz players, about the harmonization of the scale. So if you play a simple scale in C major without any accidentals, let's see, I don't start now with C, just to have a range which we can play through. Okay, so we have these notes and you can just play triads or triads in an open position. What do I mean with open position? The closed position of the triads, when the voices are narrow, are close to each other, they are also useful to practice upon a scale, but they are not so helpful when you want to harmonize a melody, because it gets technically way too difficult for guitar players. So that's why, for example, when I play this on a C major scale, this is the third degree, like an E minor chord. I play an open position where the third is an octave higher, and then you can practice this chord. That will be useful. And the other one is to practice the first inversion of the chords. So we are sticking still with this bass line, and then I put down 6 inversions, and then it's not about 6 inversion, and so on. So these are useful exercises. For more advanced musicians or people more advanced in harmony, I would also highly recommend to practice 7th chords just the same way, like 7th chords in the root position, practicing them, finding them. This is also a nice way of conquering your fingerboard for yourself. Well, as you see, until now we haven't used one sharp or one flat at all. We just used the keys, the white keys of the piano, right? So this is to get some kind of connection with the harmonies you will want to use later. Okay, so let's move to the next step. We go back to our melody, Kis kece lányom, and we put it in a position. I have put it in the first position in order to make it technically easy to play. It's important when you start composing to write in a way that you will be able to play without several months of practicing, that you can access, you can enjoy, you can shape and taste the depths and the details of what you have composed. So that's why I recommend you to start composing with things you are able to play on your guitar. So that's why I will put it down here. Okay, so we are in the first position. We have we have several bass strings left to use for harmonies. So the second step, just add the bass line, always starting like really simple on the strong beats. And well, if it's a bass line, well, let's choose this most simple way of adding a bass line, using a scale in the bass. So I will use a descending bass line, like now. Check, try to listen how it sounds, write it down, Writing is very important for composing or recording, of course, if you are not so strong with writing, but writing gives you a total different dimension of understanding what you have created. So, of course, the bass line cannot be only going down, it could be also going up. It will sound like that. So at the end, as you have seen, I have used F sharp and G sharp. This is also from the A minor scale. This melody is in A minor scale, but from the so-called harmonic A minor scale, which goes up with F sharp and G sharp and goes down with G natural and F natural. Okay, so now we have the bass line. So what can we do next? Try to add some more voices. I will choose the most simplest way to add more voices. I will add just a third upon every bass. So we will start like this, or with a double bass. Okay, so it sounds quite okay, right? What you may have noticed that when I played D in bass, which should be the fourth degree of the scale in A minor, a D minor chord, I have used D major instead, which is F sharp in the scale. So all together it makes a Dorian. Instead of Aeolian, it makes a Dorian scale. But actually this is a freedom you can always do, like to switch between a minor and the Dorian scale, just to follow some nice harmonies, okay? So this was like the next step, adding more voices to our harmonization. So as I mentioned before, you should try to write down your ideas, even if you are not shaping them in such a conscious way like we have been doing it really in a methodical way, right? With following the concept of the scale, adding a voice, always the third. You can all just simply follow your fantasy, your fingers, and then write down whatever seems nice for yourself. Write it down and try to understand the rules behind it. The music, even if finding it just through the fingers, is following certain rules. So you can kind of analyze this. So let's speak about using some more special harmonies, just a simple bass voice or simple third. So there is a so-called technique which is called ostinato, which is very often based on a simple harmonic or harmonical pattern repeating many times. So ostinatos can consist, for example, only of two chords going back and forth like a pendulum. For example, it could be like we have an A minor chord and we have something based on a bass F, which is in this case the second inversion of the D minor chord. So we can play like, right? So actually I haven't used anything, just these two chords going like a pendulum back and forth, shaping a nice ostinato, and the melody is changing but the chords are the same, which gives already a kind of a color or diversity to it. So you can play experiments with it. You can choose, for example, you can make this switch with many other chord combination. For example, it could be also like and so on. So now I changed with the A and the G, so the first, the tonic with the seventh degree. Okay, So another technique which can be useful for you when harmonizing the melody is the so-called circle of fifth, which is the fifths, circle progression of the fifths, which is used since the early Baroque music until today, also in a lot of French chansons, and everyone knows them. How does it sound? In jazz, it sounds something like. So it's going always like the A goes to D and to G and to C and to F and so on. Okay, so with this we can apply for the melody as well. So I can start like this. Right? So now we are traveling a little bit more in the scale we are playing. I added some seventh chords, I added some other notes. You can just follow whatever is easy to play and whatever sound nice, and then write it down, try to analyze your chord, try to understand what you have created in that moment, and this will help you to use your ideas later in other tonality. It's also always very useful to transpose the music you have written into other keys. So if you had collected like a bunch of nice ideas in A minor, you might just play it like right? So I did the same circle of fifth, which before I showed you before in A minor, and I moved it to E minor. And this kind of transposition is helpful to have your own ideas very flexible and very easily applicable in different tonalities. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, I try to encourage you guys to steal ideas and steal motives from other composers, from film music, from rock music, from jazz, from wherever you can, and try to implement them into your music. Let's see some very simple idea from the James Bond movies, which probably everyone of you knows, like this one. Almost. So in that case, we have a middle voice going. This is also in A minor, right? So we have this middle voice going to the sixth degree and the augmented sixth degree, and then going back. So this has a nice kind of a melancholic and still unsettling, exciting atmosphere. So how about we steal that middle voice and we implement them into the harmonization of our melody. In that case, I will not change the bass anymore. I will make a pedal on the A, and I will just put it like this. Finally, after a while it gets boring, so we can move out of it, we can change finally the bass, which was on pedal all the time on A. But it sounds quite nice, doesn't it? Even if it's a simple idea, and this is stolen, right? So I venture to steal it from the James Bond movies and then put it in the middle voice. Probably when you listen to the folk song, you would even realize that it comes from James Bond. But this is the way how you can try to collect your own patterns. So I wanted to come to the topic of improving your skills by analyzing masterpieces. So just simply collecting harmonical ideas from the great composers and the great masterworks. So let's see just one example. For example, Beethoven has the so-called Appassionata, the F minor piano sonata, and the slow movement, which is in D flat major. I won't play it in D flat major because it's too uncomfortable on the guitar and also sounds very dry. I just move it in C major. It starts like that. So this is just a quote from the piece. This is not the entire piece, and I haven't arranged it for the guitar. I just like to quote details from pieces. I don't know if you can hear it on the video, but there is a fight with the neighbors because this is a home video, but don't get disturbed by that, okay? So this example from Beethoven shows us a very simple way of using the so-called pendulum, just two chords for a while and then moving to a third one, which has this kind of observing, meditative, contemplating atmosphere. So this is very calm and very flowing. This kind of ideas you can just take from here, transpose it to your own available key and use it with some harmony. The other idea I wanted to examine with you is a very simple, very similar melody to our Kis Kecelányom. This is called Szegény Legény, and this appears in Bartók's For Children, the piano cycle for children, which is in Hungarian Gyermekeknek. So this harmonization sounds like that. So I just showed you the first part, and I just screwed up the melody in the top, but this could sound a bit longer. So this is another example for the so-called pendulum. I mentioned you just two chords coming from the A minor, coming to D major, which is the fourth degree, but not in Aeolian, but in a Dorian tonality. And he makes it so beautiful and so meditative that when the melody is over, he just keep running the ostinato, just listening it in itself, like So as you see, this idea is so simple. The one trick he is using that he doesn't put the first chord on the strong beat, but he puts it on the two, and the second chord comes on the strong beat. So this makes it kind of gives it a special swing. This is a technique you can also try to put chords always on the weak beats. Like if we come back to Kis Kecelányom, like this one, you can put like interesting, right? I put all the chords on the weak beats and it starts kind of dancing, starts kind of swinging. Although the idea is very easy, if you write it down in a score, you just move the whole bass line on strong beats just a little bit. You shift it with one beat and you have this type of nice swinging feeling. So that's pretty much I wanted to explain to you. I'm just checking my notes just to check if I have forgotten something important. Well, finally, what I would encourage you to do, guys, these type of exercises are important and helpful for any kind of players, any kind of musicians. You don't have to have the ambition of becoming a composer. It's just like basic realization of your creativity, to using your imagination and not only to play things which you get printed in a score. And to have the courage of writing these kind of things, you should not be scared to write anything which sounds banal, or as I mentioned, stolen, or using cliches. Just go ahead, write anything which may sound even crazy or really unperfect, and just keep writing regularly. The best thing, if you compose something every day, after you will see that with the flow of writing every day something imperfect will come after weeks to really beautiful ideas, because there is this type of trap of finding the right balance of our mind, which wants to over control things, and then our natural flow of instinct. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time, guys.